Well, on the day that President Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto was sworn into office, pledging to unite the country, the deep-seated divisions that have characterized Kenya's electioneering period resurfaced as the opposition and police engaged in running battles, culminating with the reported loss of a 7-year-old boy shot dead in the chaos. Keep talking to us, and we are asking you tonight, what do you make of President Kenyatta's speech as he began his final term in office? Let's take a sample again of your tweets and SMSs very quickly. 22422 Gigi says every peace-loving Kenyan should put political bickering behind us. Museveni's 4 key words need not be overemphasized. Chris Sabu, only dialogue will enable Mr. Kenyatta to lead the country. Failure to that will be impossible. Jackson in Embu, President's speech was good, but he seemed to forget the millions who did not vote for him. And John says he recognized that his in-tray is full, but nothing outside the Constitution. Right, on Twitter, very briefly, Haniel Sikuku, President Kenyatta said it will not be business as usual. Hope he will live to his words to stop corruption. Joanna Kimwele, the president needs to reach out for opposition leaders so that the country can heal. Majimbo AG, that was a powerful speech. President Kenyatta should now actualize his words. I wish him a successful term. Oscar Flex, finally, the president passed a very bold message for unity. He talked about loving your neighbor, but the biggest responsibility lies with us Kenyans. Keep talking to us. Hashtag Big Question. Twitter, text us on 22422. In studio, I have Jennifer and not Rachel. Jennifer, my apologies for that. Jennifer Shamal, nominated MP. Suna East Member of Parliament, Junaid Mohammed, Majority Leader in the Senate, also Senator Elgeyo Marakwet County. Kipchumba Murkomen and political analyst Herman Manyora. Thank you all for making time for us tonight. You have heard from the tweets, from the SMSs, many people talking about what the President and the Deputy President talked about, unity and reaching out. Many actually were waiting to see what he'll say about that today. Let's take a listen first.
As the people of Kenya must stand together to say no to hate.
I have begun reaching out to all leaders across the political divide, restating my commitment and expressing my willingness to work with them to achieve this objective of nationhood.
Now, coming on the back of a highly divisive election, do you think his remarks in terms of building bridges first were as strong? I'll start with you, Herman.
Well, first, let's congratulate the president on this big day. Congratulate Jubilee and Murkomen. And the president gave a good speech to a country that has gone through a lot of turbulence, you know. However, in terms of uniting the country and reaching out to the opposition, I think he didn't give enough.
He did not give enough?
Yeah, especially if you look at the context in which this is happening. Looking at what was happening on the other side, where NASA is not being allowed to hold a simple rally, where people are being tear-gassed, where people are being beaten, somebody we've lost life. I think, you know, you do small things to show you are going to do big things. If the president would have ordered the police to leave NASA alone, number one. And then I was also expecting perhaps he would give something tangible about the way forward in terms of uniting this country. Because if we continue the way we are continuing, Hussein, we are going to get into problems. Let nobody cheat themselves.
So he said he's going to reach out. He has already reached out, and he will reach out, and he will bridge the gap. What do you mean when you say
when things are as hot as they are today, when people are dying, you don't say, I'll reach out. You give some plan of action, some agenda, some way forward, some tangibles. That's what I mean, which he didn't do.
Murkomen, is that lacking?
First of all, I like to congratulate the President and the Deputy President for a well-deserved victory and a fantastic speech they gave today. And Hussein, I speak as a person who is an insider and who has worked with the President and the Deputy throughout this journey since the Supreme Court said we need to go for fresh elections. The situations that the country was put into was such that we were actually closer to, tipping, being at the cliff itself. We would have been pushed down the cliff. And this country would have even gone to a civil disorder. But the president, out of humility and commitment, stood firm, worked with the necessary institutions, accepted to go for fresh elections. Because if the president, can you imagine if the president did what the former prime minister did and said that I don't believe with the Supreme Court decision and I'm not going for the elections, we would have been in a worse situation as a country. Maybe we would have even had a civil war. But out of his humility and responsibility, that's where we are. But Kenyans must also appreciate that the problems we are having are not natural. They are not like a natural disaster. It is man-made. And number two, I hear many people saying that elections are divisive and that elections divide the country, and that, of course, elections divide a country.
But it depends on the level of division.
I mean, it can be very deep divisions, but those divisions are related to manifestos.
But is that a fact? Do you think the divisions in Kenya is about manifestos?
Not Kenya alone, all over the world.
Fine, but I'm talking about Kenyan context.
The end of an election is a divided result that says so and so number of people have decided a particular course, and certain number of people have divided a certain course. And actually, our constitution anticipated a possibility of that happening.
So in the Kenyan context,
the constitution made a mistake, not a mistake actually, but an assumption. That assumption is that every man is a reasonable man, will accept that when you are defeated, you live with the consequence of that defeat and support the position. Despite the fact that you don't agree with the manifesto of the person that has won, you will accept that you move forward. Okay. That is the context now that I come with saying to say, the president then made a good speech. The same speech that it mirrors the speech of Obama when he defeated Mitt Romney. And President Obama said that losing to Mitt Romney didn't mean that those who voted for Mitt Romney were less of Americans, but that he was going to sit down with Mitt Romney and accommodate the manifesto and policies that they had.
Okay.
And in the same, now, the president has made the offer. Now it's up to his competitors, which is Raila Odinga and the other 5, 6 or 7 presidential candidates, to come to the table with the president to accept that offer and suggest to the president that your 100% health care, the programs of the roads and so forth, we have other programs that we thought we need to implement, and you can accommodate.
Very briefly, Junaid is an insider from NASA, and he'll tell us about how they look at all that. But are you going to be honest and say, and I'm not saying all Kenyans, but that the divisions we have in this country today is because of manifestos and issues in the election?
No, I'm just saying the divisions are man-made.
But they are also
absolutely, they're man-made. Let's first agree they're not natural, they're man-made.
That's fine, but I'm saying they're also ethnic.
Absolutely. Okay. And those ethnic instigations are not, it's not like the people of Nyanza, for example, woke up and say they don't want to vote. People came out and told them don't vote and that there will be no election.
I'll let Junaid respond to that.
No, I'm just saying, so it is instigated. It's not like it's natural. It's an instigated, it's a position that is taken. I hear people saying that, oh, you know, the country is deeply divided. The people of Western Province feel like the people of Central Province are more developed than them. It's not because they just failed. They were fed with certain message by the leadership. Okay. If the leadership chooses to give a different message to the same people, they will perform, they will act differently.
Okay, you're saying, Honorable Murkomen, Junaid will respond to all that from NASA, but you're saying, very briefly, because the rest need to talk, Uhuru Kenyatta from the speech today has finished, has already done the first part in as far as bridging the gap and reaching out is concerned. So it's up to NASA and the team now to heed to that. Is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily. I'm just saying, one, that the president has given an indication of what he needs to do, what he wants to do in his 5-year term as a way of uniting the country. He has also given an historical account of what he has done in the last 5 years to unite the country, which has led to even the formation of one political party that has representation across the country, with every leadership between 55% and 60-something% of the leadership of every position that we garnered for in this country is held by Jubilee. It's not by accident, it's because of an effort of 5 years. What the president has done is to offer an olive branch and say, listen, I know that the elections and the manner in which we campaigned and the message given to the people has led to a certain level of divisions. I'm willing to sit down with the former Prime Minister and other presidential candidates, accommodate the manifestos, and carry everybody on board.
So
but let's make no mistake of saying, there is one important point that the president said, that tonight or today
marks the end. I'll come to that. I'll come to
process.
that. Yes, Junet.
Hussein, what happened today at Kasarani, what I describe as the coronation of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, and the speech they gave at that place fell. I didn't have time to watch it, but I listened to it later in the day. It fell short of the expectations of Kenyans if they were talking to Kenyans. I expected Uhuru Kenyatta to speak about two issues only today: to speak about electoral justice and how to unite and bring the country together. Any other rhetoric he was telling us of 500,000 homes, you know, in NHIF, those are rhetorics that we've had that even in first term, and nothing was achieved. So the division you are seeing in this country is not created by manifestos, as Murkomen is trying to put it. The divisions in this country is created by theft of election. This country has never had proper elections. So when you steal elections, definitely people will rebel. There will be division in the country. You remember the last proper elections we had in this country, in this era, was on 8th of August. After that, there's nothing that you can call elections. An election where, you remember the Supreme Court said must be conducted within the dictates of within the confines of the Constitution and the law. What happened? We told IEBC to do reforms. They just took us.
So they have said they're going to reach out to you.
In 26th, what happened was just something that was an Jubilee opinion poll. And out of intimidation and fear, give me time.
I'll give you time. I'll give you time. I just want you to get to the point.
Out of fear and intimidation of the judiciary, the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court just said, okay, we confirm what the IEBC has done. You can even see from the body language, they were not willing to do anything else. So after that is what now Jubilee is telling us, that there was an election where, in our belief, the turnout was 20%, but what IEBC gave was 38%. An election where 62% of Kenyans did not participate. And Hussein, 62% of voters of this country don't live in Luo Nyanza. Luo Nyanza can have not more than 15% of the voters of this country. 62% of Kenyans did not turn out to vote the president that they coronated today. So we have to start first discussing. If you want to treat a disease, you must own up first the disease you have. Secondly, in today's president's speech, Uhuru's speech, he did not speak about the lives that were lost during this period of electioneering. Not a single life. There are families who are Kenyans, there are people who are Kenyans who have lost their sons, their daughters, their children. He did not say, I feel sorry for the people who lost lives through this electionary period. It's like they're not Kenyans. They can die. People who belong to NASA don't have rights to life. Okay. That's what they're telling us. Now, are these lesser Kenyans or what are they?
I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to the issues pre-today as much. But it was the Supreme Court decision when you went to court as NASA that annulled the August 8th elections. It is the same Supreme Court that upheld an election after other petitioners went to challenge the October 26th election. Are you saying you're not going to recognize what the Supreme Court did on about the 26th, but you recognize the one
you see, there are two aspects here we are looking at ourselves. Legally, we agree with what the Supreme Court has said, but politically, we don't agree.
So politically,
we are not done with this election.
He's telling you.
We are not.
He's telling you to do, and the president told you. That's the question I asked you initially. They are reaching out to you. What are you saying now? See, what kind of reaching out are you expecting? In fact, he said, I have already started reaching out. No. Has he reached out to any person in NASA?
Nothing that of I know, but we are not opposed to reaching out. We are open to dialogue. We are open to discussion. But we want it done not in form of talking, but actions. Actions speak louder than words. When you say, I've reached out to opposition, you reach to, the leadership of the opposition. If you reach out to them, we will agree to talk and discuss on issues as Kenyans. But when you say, as the Deputy President was putting it at Kasarani, that people must say no to hate, division, chaos, anarchy, you are profiling certain Kenyans.
But what is the problem?
That is not the right way to call for dialogue.
There's two pertinent issues that have come out so far as I was listening. One was, what did Uhuru Kenyatta bring to his speech? And the second was the issue of divisiveness. First and foremost, let us be very clear, this was an inauguration speech. It wasn't a budget speech. It was for him to be inaugurated and to give his vision. And this constant what is he giving or what is he bringing fills into the narrative of what I have always and consistently said, where they're looking for a political solution for a caretaker government. But having said that, let me also go back to what my honorable colleague said here, that there's never been a free and fair election. And I want to put some things into context. Post-President Daniel Arap Moi era, we had the election between Uhuru Kenyatta and Mwai Kibaki, and it was considered free, fair, and credible. Nobody contested the outcome of that election. We then have the 2007 election, where the key players is Kibaki and Raila, and we know what happened in 2007, 2008. We have the 2012 election, and we're told that it is an election it's divisive in its nature, and we fast forward. So the constant is that whenever it's Nasser in whatever form, and they are not part and parcel of the winning formula, then it is not a free and fair election. My colleague has clearly said that the only free and fair election they've had in this country was the one of August 8th. And why, how, I don't know. And why they assume that, and also saying very clearly that thereafter on October 26th, and the outcome and the decision by the Supreme Court was, it doesn't actually make sense to me. You accept the nullification, but you don't want to respect the Supreme Court and the decisions. You don't want to respect the institutions that upheld this election. This election is not about a turnout. This election is the fact that the Supreme Court ordered that they be the nullification of the first election and a new election be held. The reality is that was only in 25 constituencies where elections were not held. But so actually when they talk about the reaching out, what they really had hoped for today was that, and which they have consistently hoped for, which has been the absolute reason for the theatrics we have seen from the nullification on September 1st up to this very moment today. Nobody understands the reason why on this day of all days they had to demonstrate violently, is looking for a caretaker government.
Okay, for the record,
you know, today, for heaven's sake, or for the records, we were not demonstrating. Today we were supposed to mourn the bereaved. We were supposed to mourn our dead people. And we had notified the police, and we were, but what happened? The police took raw sewage to Jacaranda 5 a.m. in the morning, the ground that we were supposed to do our function. Look at this militia called police, armed militia in the name of police, that taking raw sewer to a ground where we are supposed to hold our functions peacefully. Secondly, look at today. A young boy of 9, 8 years, 7 years old, Mutinda, lost his life for no reason. He was playing at the balcony of his house. Is that the kind of country we
Jennifer, do you support what happened today?
Is that the kind of country
by the police trying to stop them? The police stopped them from doing their rally.
Yes, because I think I don't support the killing of anybody, and then investigations have to be conducted on how these people were killed. But why is it, of all the days you chose on the inauguration? I mean, it's an embarrassment.
Nothing stops.
Let me finish, please. You had your chance. Let me finish. It's an embarrassment. There is an inauguration going on. Over 11 African heads of states have attended. Delegations from countries around the world are there. Surely the former Prime Minister should have been there, not making an address about how he's going to swear himself in on December 12th.
That question has been asked several times, Honorable Junaid. Why today? Why not any other day? Why did you have to do it today? I'll come to you. Sorry.
No, you see, Hussein, nothing stops us today from doing what we want to do. The Constitution gives us the freedom to do whatever we intend to do today. If there was law that is barring us from doing anything the day of inauguration, we will not have done it. Secondly, the president that have come today, she's talking about, and the dignitaries, those were Jubilee invitees, those are Jubilee, people who came to attend a Jubilee function. They were not coming to a NASA function. So nothing stops.
They're coming to attend a government function. But Jennifer, still, I mean, people have been asking why today.
Yes,
whether it was just to steal the thunder from what is happening.
It's extreme provocation.
But I'm also asking you this question.
First,
they are still within their rights to hold it today.
Yes, but actually nothing stops them. But every demonstration they have held, we have seen their members of their elected officials calling for the rape of women. No, but no organization has stood out and condemned that. We have seen their supporters with blood on their knives having stabbed people and grabbed bananas. No, none of them have criticized it. Why today? Yes, you can have a peaceful demonstration, but all they have tried to do is to provoke.
Honorable Junaid, you have been criticized about not talking about destruction, about property.
Yeah.
But Jennifer Shamal, I'm still on you.
Yes.
I mean, first, they are within their rights if they want to hold it today or any other day.
Yes.
My question to you was, do you support what police did? Today they were going to have a meeting. It is the police that dispersed them.
If you become violent, have you seen that they burn?
Is that what you saw?
2 policemen have died.
Yeah, is that what you saw? He'll respond.
What I have
was that
seen,
small boy violent?
What I first and foremost have not seen. I was at Kasarani at the inauguration of the President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy. I have just seen, as I waited here, their demonstrators burning a car. I asked the Honorable Jeanette, why did they burn a car? Police provoked them. You saw that there was an issue at Kasarani of people trying to get into Kasarani Stadium, but the stadium was full, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
And you cannot have too many people in a stadium. There's a certain set of number of people. With the hundreds and hundreds of crowds there, did you see anybody burning anybody's property? Why is it that when it comes to NASA demonstrations, it's about looting, killing, and rape?
Okay, Honorable Junaid,
yes.
My question to you is, like today, and this you have been accused by your Jubilee counterparts, today you're going to mourn those who died. But they're also asking you, there's destruction of property. Why are you not talking about it? Why haven't you gone to see these people whose properties have been destroyed?
You said because you've been provoked.
Hussein, there is no property that is destroyed.
There have been. We have seen that on live TV.
Let me explain to you how it happens. You see, we notified the police 2 days ago that we want to use the Jacaranda grounds to mourn our dead. The people were killed by police, the same police. Now, when we arrive there, there is raw sewer at the ground. Secondly, the police starts beating everybody in that vicinity. Everybody who's walking peacefully
that we also
to the
saw on
ground.
TV.
Beating women, getting them out of their even shops, getting out of their houses, getting out of their where they stay.
Do you support that? That was
What
my
kind
question.
of
As
police-
movement,
It is there on record.
First of all,
it's on record.
I think, Hussein, we should not waste a lot of national TV airtime to discuss, compete about whether there is anything wrong in the country or not. There is everything wrong in what's happening across the country. There is everything wrong with the kind of protests that are going on. In fact, I am told, and the police need to confirm, that most of the people that NASA were going to mourn are that guy who burned the police car and he was shot, the guy who was shot when he invaded a police station in Bondo, the guy who stabbed a lady and he was killed by a mob with a knife, who stole bananas in Muthurwa and so forth. Hussein, we are deteriorating as a country in terms of morals. The conversation must leave the purview of who is right, who is wrong. And actually all of us come to the consciousness that we are in a situation that is not acceptable. I mean, the former prime minister is former head of state, head of government. He knows very well what today meant. As the Bible says, to those who much is given, much is expected. I mean, for him to have the votes that he had in August 8, it means that he has a big support. Big expectations is expected from him in terms of the level of maturity that is expected of him. On our side, expectations also on our side. The police, the head of the police is expected to speak, Boynet is expected to speak to the policemen to restrain themselves in the manner in which they are going to deal with protesters, because honestly, I mean, 7-year-old baby dying, I actually shed a tear today because of that. And I want
and
to
our
say
condolences
that,
actually
and my condolences to those families. So I'm just saying this, that the president, the question of elections of 2017 is over. The next elections constitutional in Kenya is 9th of August 2022.
And I'll come.
The conversation we must have today.
Yes, let's take a listen. Let's take a listen of what President said about that.
The conversation we must have today is that how can we get former Prime Minister and Kalonzo Musyoka and all the other leaders to recognize that
Finally, the president is here. Let's bring all our grievances to the table.
Right.
Let it be sorted out.
That is actually the first question I started by asking.
Yeah.
Let's listen, though, to what the president said, even when he said that he's going to reach out. I'll read this first before we play any right. I'll just quote him. He said, this administration has demonstrated by its actions, and I quote him, its readiness to live and lead by the rule of law. By extension, we expect nothing less from each and every citizen. Absolutely. He went further to say, however serious our grievances, the law must reign supreme. The law should be the refuge for every Kenyan. None of us should operate or break outside the law or constitutional order, whatever our grievances or protestations. And to cap it all, he was assertive on this being the end of the electoral season. Let's take a look.
Today is the 123rd day since we began on August 8th. Today's inauguration therefore marks the end, and I repeat, the end of our electoral process.
So has he already set the tone of the structure of talks, if any, by saying that? Because we've seen NASA saying any talks must be centered on the electoral process. The president is very clear, and you have said it actually yourself, Honorable Murkomen, you're an insider there, that the electoral process is done and dusted.
Hussein. I think that's a mistake.
No, I'm saying,
Hussein, let me put it this way. It's not even the president saying it. It's the Constitution saying it.
That's fine. I'm just quoting what the president said today.
Every conversation we have, we know that the conversation that is going to take the country forward is between the President of the Republic of Kenya and the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya and the citizens of this republic who hold different positions, whether it's majority leader
It has nothing to do with the opposition specifically.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with
the opposition.
Yeah, first, I'm happy that Murkomen shed a tear. I hope it was 2 tears. I wish it was 2 tears. And I also wish or hope it wasn't crocodile tears.
Why would you say that, bro? No, honestly, I know. Why would you say that?
I would say that because you are part of a formation that is basically responsible for all this.
How am I responsible? I am not the police.
You are part of government. The police is an instrument of government.
No. I expect an apology from you.
I apologize. So can I continue?
Please continue.
That is very wrong. I mean, that's life. We are talking about.
I think to go to the substance of what we are talking about, that is the crux of the matter. That is where the problem lies. We have people who are determined to move on. There is every evidence along the way from 8th that people are in a hurry to get to this day. Okay? There was a little delay along the way. But then,
what do you mean when you say that?
Pardon?
What do you mean when you say that? There was every indication that people are eager to get to this stage.
We have to be very
careful. The election, okay, listen, then learn to listen, Shamala, my sister.
Because you're such.
After the elections of 8th of August, you could see how much IBC was being pushed to declare the winner. That is in public domain. After the Supreme Court ruling on 1st of September, you saw how fast the IBC moved to announce a date, 17th, denying themselves a whole 2 weeks in a calendar of 60 days that was already too short. How are you given 60 days that are actually too short to conduct an election? So and you deny yourself willingly a whole two weeks. You get what I'm saying? That is evidence of that's evidence of some element of hurry.
You know, Hussein, I think it's very. I must intervene when he's yes.
So that is evidence of hurry, and along the way there have been other things like we must have the election on 26th. Whether or not there were national issues that could destroy this country, we had to have that election. That, in my view, is an aspect of hurry. So we've gotten here. Now we have these fellows who are saying, let's move on. What I'm telling them is this. As you move on, please, can you care to look behind you? And you are going to see that about 50% of your fellow countrymen are not moving. So why are you moving along? Why don't you stop and talk to your fellow countrymen?
Isn't that
and chart out the future for this country?
Hussein, I think it's only fair.
Listen. I began by making myself very clear. I use very simple English and I make very simple statements anybody could follow. I'm saying there is this hurry to move on. And I'm also saying there is a significant part of this country that is saying, where are we going to? Can we stop? Because we are not going with you. And I'm saying it is important for the sake of this country, for the sake of our children and our grandchildren, that we chart a path that we can all travel to posterity. But if people are going to move, as indeed they are going to move, there was evidence today, and then the other side is going to bring issues, and then you are going to suppress them using the police. Why do we want to watch our fellow Kenyans die?
I think Hussein, Hussein, please. I think that it is, frankly, as a viewer, as a person who listens to conversations, personally, a lot of people are getting tired of a narrative which is not the correct narrative. Let us put down the facts. And one station, I'm sure, and I congratulate Citizen for being factual and being balanced. But this narrative of a hurry to move on, let us remember the president has categorically said we must uphold the rule of law. This business, we are in a hurry to move on. It is the Supreme Court who said elections must be held within 60 days. We are in a hurry to do this. It is the Supreme Court who upheld the results of that election. Let us be very clear, and the president addressed that in his speech today, that it is time we start building the institutions. These narratives and stories that don't really address any facts can no longer be tolerated. I think that as we sit here, we must address facts and not narratives and emotions and sarcasm about whether people shed tears or didn't shed tears. Let us talk about, the president said today he is the custodian of all the dreams of all Kenyans. And he doesn't need the proxies of the politicians to go through to assist all Kenyans in achieving those dreams.
Janet, as you respond, Raila Odinga today when he talked said he does not recognize, and NASA still doesn't recognize President Kenyatta. He actually went on to say that he will be sworn in as well. So let's take a listen.
Mwezi huu wa Desemba tarehe 12 kutakuwa na assembly ambayo itaniapisha mimi.
So he's talking about the 12th of December, which is Jamhuri Day celebrations, I think. And he's saying he'll be sworn in by the People's Assembly. Janet, what do you mean by that? As you respond, of course.
First, before I get into that, I want to make a correction. It was said here by Honorable Murkomen that we were mourning today people who have been killed by mob justice, so and so, so and so. The people we are supposed to mourn today are the people we've put in the daily paper on standard, 26 people who were killed by police, post-mortem done by the government pathologist, Dr. Johansen Odwor at City Mortuary. And they were all killed through bullets. And we have the records, and they are the City Mortuary lying today. This morning when we woke up, there was a contingent of police that surrounded the city, the mortuary, so that we don't pick our bodies. So these are facts that are there, and this majority of them were killed the day the Prime Minister was coming back home from America. They lost their lives at Mudhurwa Market, near Mudhurwa Market, on Jogo Road. Those are facts that are available. So those are people who have been killed by militias who are working for Honorable Murkomen and his people. Secondly,
but please,
I'm saying, okay, they were killed by militia in police uniforms. I don't know who they're working for.
Okay, they were killed. Secondly, you say they were killed by the police. Police say a different thing and they're investigating. But anyway, I'm not saying people were not killed, but I'm not saying people were not killed.
No,
people were killed.
The truth of the matter is they were killed through bullets by the police.
That's fine. We saw that happen. But of course, the police is saying they're doing the investigations. NASA, you have all the rights as NASA, of course, to say what you know.
Saying, listen, these are people who have been shot in our presence and fell down, and we collected them.
All I'm saying,
by the police.
All I'm saying, Honorable Junaid,
is
the statements you're making against Murkomen.
No, Murkomen, I was saying with a light touch. I didn't mean it.
There's no light touch about that.
But the Inspector General is his friend. He can talk to him to stop doing that.
All right.
Now, this one of Honorable Raila. Yeah, that's right. You know, what you see him speaking there is a decision made by NASA as a coalition, and they feel that there is no justice, there is no electoral justice that has been given to the NASA people. So they want to do what they think is right and what the Constitution allows them to do. You know, under Article 1 of the Constitution, sovereign power belongs to the people. And most likely, they want to exercise that clause of the Constitution and exercise their sovereignty as people on 12th of August and have a People's Assembly, and if so be it, swear in Honorable Raila as a president.
Okay.
President of the People's Assembly?
No, the President of the Republic of Kenya.
How? What do you mean when you say that? How is that going to happen?
And actually, I'm told NASA is sending invites tomorrow to dignitaries who will attend that function tomorrow.
So, okay, Honorable Junior, that's fine. You're within your rights to say that. But my question again is, how do you envisage, or how are you seeing this happen? He is going to be sworn in how?
No, don't worry. You know, the announcement was made today. From tomorrow, they will lay out the plan on how they want to do it. So wait, communications will be issued from...
So as the elected president of Kenya, is that what you're saying? Or
you didn't vote for Raila, you?
I'm asking you a question.
For those who voted for him.
I'm asking you a question.
Yeah. Kenyans who voted for him.
The president of NASA or president of
the president?
If you give me half a second.
I'll give you a second. I'll give you a second.
The people who voted for him in August of 8th, who are Kenyans.
But what institution, because you know there's an institution called IBC that never declared him president. In the only election that you said you recognize, there was a nullification, so nobody won.
Hussein, I've told you, those details will be communicated by NASA from tomorrow.
Honorable Manyora.
Let me just...
You will. Just a moment, yeah.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. When as a country we set up ourselves for destruction, I'm warning Kenyans against it. And I'm seated here with the leaders. That's why I'm speaking the way I'm speaking. When we get to a point where Honorable Raila Odinga talks about swearing in, whatever form it will take, because certainly you cannot take oath of office of President of the Republic of Kenya, that will be treason. But when we get to that point, these are the things I'm talking about. So that I'm saying both sides have to think of Kenya and Kenyans and future generations. Let's not push ourselves to destruction. This is
what kind of talks would you want to see? What structure? What would you want to see? If it's about, finally, and to all of you, is to unite the country, what would you want to see happen?
You see, there are two hardline positions. One is that elections are over. The president has said, I repeat again, they are over. Next election, 2022. The other position is we must have free and fair, fresh elections.
Still on the electoral process.
These are two extreme positions. But I believe there can be a middle ground. And this is what some of us are saying. Unfortunately, when we say so, Jubilee may think we are attacking them. No, we love this country, Murkomen, and we are saying these are hardline positions from both sides, and we can find a middle ground. For example, I've asked NASA, for example, me, in some of my video clips, to recognize that from today, Uhuru is the president, and you can't do much about it. And Uhuru, on the other side, to recognize that the country is bleeding. That people, once they recognize he's the president and they are not debating about that, he should allow the country to sit down and discuss anything, including holding free and fresh elections. Anything, including changing the constitution, including whether or not to have fresh elections, when and how.
So there's a reason why I was saying that, and you kept on saying this is the position. There's a reason why I was saying that, because the other side, and Muhammad Manyora is also talking about that now, is that they are still talking about the electoral process.
I just want to ask
what kind of talks do you envisage?
Let's be factual. First, there is a tired argument where many people hide that there is an Article 1 of the Constitution that says sovereign power of the people. Then after that, everybody inserts whatever they want to insert. As a matter of fact, the Constitution says the sovereign power belongs to the people, and then goes ahead in many articles up to Article 260 of the Constitution to explain how that power is going to be exercised. And it makes it clear in Article 3 that any exercise of power outside the provision of the Constitution is null and void. So the discussion, I feel very sad that my colleagues, senior counsels, with greater legal experience than myself, misled the former Prime Minister. And when we talked, people were insulting us on social media and saying that we are junior, we don't know the law. People were lying around, telling people that there shall be no election on 26th of October. It happened. People are saying that we will swear in, and they know they have no capacity and power to swear in everybody. Let's get out of this discussion that we are having outside the Constitution. Let's first talk about, as Manyora has said, the president is in office. We want to discuss with the president. what is it that Raila Odinga wanted to do to Kenya or to Kenyans in the manifesto of NASA with Kalonzo, with the all team. Let them bring to the table and tell President Uhuru Kenyatta, we wanted to provide such number of roads in the country. We are handing over to you, and we want you to sign an agreement that you will deal with those roads. We wanted healthcare to reach certain number of people, because if this is about Kenyans, this is not about holding offices, it's about building an airport in the country, building the railways, building the roads. Let them hand over those proposals they have about taking the country forward to a table where the president is, and tells him that incorporate it in your projects and the budget. Number two, my colleagues here sit with us in the parliament. Let them come up with that legislation that they think that it's necessary to make future elections to be free, fair, and credible, and tell us that we sit on the table. I am the majority leader in the Senate. I'm ready to sit with anybody, minority leader and the other team. We come up with processes and mechanisms that they think they can make elections better. And I really am interested in having this conversation with my NASA colleagues, that what kind of human beings will they be given? Because every time we have acceded to their demands to appoint people to IEBC, they keep saying that the elections is not free and fair.
Okay.
I am willing to have that conversation before 2022, so that then by the elections of 2022, but let me tell you, Hussein, the conversation that Murkomen is willing to engage in is a conversation about changing lives of the people of Kenya. It's no longer about a conversation about who will be Mr. Big or Mr. Small, because the constitution has already provided for those.
You were talking about these talks. You are thinking principals sit and talk about this?
Yes, okay. I hope and I believe when President Uhuru Kenyatta said here that he's going to reach out to Raila Odinga, that tomorrow, and I'm not saying to meet him, you know, there was a time we would even say, oh, they can meet and have tea in State House. Forget about tea. That tomorrow, the president in his Harambee office, which is a public office, or in State House, which is a public office, to call for a meeting with all presidential candidates that has different manifestos, and come and tell the president, these are the things we wanted to do for Kenya. We want you to incorporate it in the budget, in the coming budget, okay, and we want to be part and parcel. Because there is a conversation that says this country has been marginalized. Some people feel they are excluded. Some people feel the development is not taking place in the region, despite the facts on the table. I want this conversation to be closed by calling all these leaders who are saying that the areas have been marginalized. Let them bring those development projects on the table.
I don't want to talk, but I just want to point out that Murkomen is missing the point by a wide margin. A wide margin. Seriously wide margin. You cannot take people who want to transform, they believe they can change this country, and tell them to bring you their package of transformation. Surely, you know, we are dealing with a bigger issue. For the first time in this country, and it hurts me, for the first time in this country, we are dealing with the legitimacy issue. I want to repeat.
Oh, please.
Please.
It is important. It is important.
You will respond to him.
It is important.
What do you mean when you say that?
Countries that have gone the path of these countries we've laughed at, just started the way we are doing.
Example?
You refuse to see
many of them.
Logic.
Somalia.
You refuse to see what is obvious, and what is obvious that one part of the country is saying it's not moving with you. And you are talking about them giving you their manifesto. Sure, that is to get a serious issue. And
I'll have Shamala then you.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
First of all, the president also categorically said that there were people voted, there was a contestation. There were those who believed in the vision of Raila Amolo Odinga NASA, and those who believed in his vision. And he believes that his was the better vision, and that's why people voted for his vision, number one. Number two, he said that indeed he will reach out to the political leaders and talk to them. But what is agitating them is that this reaching out and this threats of we're going the Somali way, or we're going to go, that not many countries have gone a particular way, is, I say it and I reiterate it and I continue to say it, is they want a negotiated settlement where they can get political power. Unfortunately, in this country and the way the situation is and the way the constitution is, democracy is not equal. Democracy is a situation where the majority wins. Having said that, we still have devolution. And that is what devolution was supposed to address. So what my question is, when they keep on saying that they are not happy with the situation, that the country is divided, it is divided about what? If you look at the seats that Jubilee got in the Senate, in the National Assembly, along the county assemblies, they're far over the majority. What really is bothering them is the fact that it is the political leadership of their party leaders that they did not get. And I think we better start having a conversation, because these vague words, inclusivity,
when he talks about legitimacy,
and legitimacy,
it depends with how you want to interpret that.
It's not, because it is legitimate because the Supreme Court of this country, an independent arm, upheld this election.
They still say,
so when you say it is not legitimate, you are actually attacking the Supreme Court of this country. That is what it is.
Okay, that's what
they say. And what they're saying is, when things don't work for us, let us break down these institutions.
That's what they say. Very, very briefly, does it bother you where you stand that there are millions still that did not take part in that October 26th election?
No, it doesn't, because their leadership called out. Remember, there was a boycott. There was a boycott. It was their choice. You remember, there is a freedom to do what you want to do. You have a freedom to vote. You can choose not to vote. It doesn't affect the legitimacy. Having said that, 91% of the people, let me finalize, 91% of the people who came out in August to vote for Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President are the same people who came out and voted, the 91% in October.
Honorable Junaid
Hussein,
as you wind up now.
The issue we are discussing in this country at this point in time is not the issue of manifestos, it's not the issue of building roads and bridges. The issue we are discussing here as Kenyans is the issue of respecting the will of the people through free, fair, accurate elections. That's what we are lacking in this country. And that is what Jubilee is trying to put it under to hide it under the carpet. You see, Hussein, they talk about having majority, 55% in the Senate, 55. We've seen in this country 58
yeah.
or 55 in the National Assembly.
No.
We have seen in this country
61 in the National
whatever it is.
Yeah.
We have seen in this country in 2007 a president declared to have won an election as a president of the Republic of Kenya with 43 members of parliament. We've seen it happening in this country. Mwai Kibaki, PNU, had 43 members of parliament, and we are told he's the one who won the elections against Raila in 2007. Hussein, we are living in denial as a country.
Then, although then you said majority, because you are the majority, you should have
it doesn't matter what numbers you have in parliament here. It doesn't matter. In a presidential system, it doesn't matter what numbers you have in parliament. We've seen President Obama running a country as a president when he didn't have the majority in the Senate and the Congress.
So let
me finish. This country, we are living in denial. It is like you go, break into a store, you use force, you get people's things, then you tell them, now can we talk, or move on, accept and move on. Nobody is going to go that way again. Kenyans have reached the breaking point. This is the time to step back, as the professor said, think and see how many people, viewers, are behind you. You may be running around there with Jennifer Shamala and Honorable Murkomen, and majority of Kenyans are behind you. They are not with you. So what I want is, honestly, first to accept that there is electoral injustice in our country. There is theft of election in our country. It's a system where, you know, the professor talked about legitimacy. You know how illegitimate children are. They are born, they don't know their fathers, but the child exists. This is what's happening in this country now. There's a government that exists, but they don't know their father. But they claim that they should not be killed because they are alive and kicking.
My question to you, Honorable Junaid, is what kind of, okay, you're saying you can't have any talks if they're not centered on the electoral process, that's what you're saying?
Yes.
Or are you willing to engage in any talks?
No, that one we have said time and again. We are ready to engage in talks, we are ready to engage in dialogue. So long as it is not the kind of dialogue Senator Murkomen is proposing. Come to Parliament, Parliament don't dialogue, Parliament they debate. In Parliament we debate.
I believe
you say your views, I say mine, and we vote.
That you all agree we should talk, I think should be the perfect way to end this, I believe tonight.
I agree.
I think, Hussein...
and as you make this point, maybe just two of you if you can. Finally, but very briefly, because you're not being very brief in your responses, do you make anything with the absence, or maybe Haman should say that, but you can also say that, you make anything with the absence of President Magufuli of Tanzania,
Well, I don't want
let Murkomen first speak then.
First of all, I just want to say that it, of course, concerns me that 27 constituencies never voted. It concerns me. And the concerns has nothing to do with the win of Uhuru Kenyatta. It is the question of when are we going to have democracy, which we talk about nationally, being practiced at a local level? When are we going to have those 27 counties to a free and fair environment where they can make decisions? And where, like where I come from, you have diversity of opinions. We have people who are in ODM, they have a chance, they vote, they get their votes without being intimidated in the manner in which we saw. There is a conversation that must be cascaded to where Junet comes from and localized, and democracy must really, they don't need to preach to us democracy in the country when we don't see democracy in the areas where Raila Odinga was born or where Junet represents. And that conversation cannot be divorced from the problems that have now been escalated to the national level. Number two, it concerns me further to say here that as a country, I don't want to come back to this television to come and discuss again about Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta. By the way, Uhuru Kenyatta from today, Uhuru Kenyatta is not competing with anybody. Uhuru Kenyatta is exercising power for a last time under our constitution. And even if Manyora calls how many meetings to say, let's discuss, maybe Uhuru, we can give him the third term. It's not possible. Our constitution says that this is his last term. I want, when I come back here, the conversation Hussein should be around how can we turn this country to have enough employment to accommodate the youth that are idle, that are being used by politicians. How can we change the economy? How can we change the roads, the railway?
Now that you mentioned Manyora,
and when I tell Manyora, that is the conversation, because he's obsessed with holding political office, he wants to drive me to a conversation of Raila must hold on office, Manyora must get administrative position. It's about changing lives of Kenyans.
You see, President Kenyatta is not competing with anybody for the presidency. I have said it just a short while ago. And I'm asking Junet Mohammed to convince Raila Odinga and his people that the president has been sworn in. You can't change that fact. But the president, Murkomen, I want you to listen.
Not President.
The president who is the President Uhuru Kenyatta is competing with the situation in the country.
Agreed.
And the situation in the country is bad. It can lead to such a terrible situations after this that there will be no point in being president. Why would you want to be a president of a country which is burning? It won't make sense. So he's competing not with anybody for the presidency, but with the situation in the country.
All right, we're way beyond our time. We'll have to leave it at that. Gentlemen, I'm sorry for that. We'll have this discussion.
No, I just wanted to say, Hussein.
Very briefly, Junet.
No, Hussein, it is, there's a wise man who's been asked, a young boy asked him, he had a butterfly in his hands. He asked him, is this butterfly alive or dead? The old man told him, it is all in your hands. Because if he says it's dead, he will release it. If he says it is alive, he will press it more to die. That's what I'm telling Jubilee.
At least you're all saying you need to talk, and we hope we'll see.
We need Kenya tomorrow.
Good. We all say we need to talk. We'll see what happens after that. But thank you so much. Jennifer Shamala, nominated MP, Suna Ace Member of Parliament, Junet Mohammed, Kipchumba Murkomen, Senate Majority Leader, and Haman Manyora, Political Analyst. Thank you all for making time for us tonight. Keep talking to us. The hashtag is the big question on Twitter. Talk to us also. You can SMS on 22422. We're back with your feedback after this break.